If you feel like you are bad at everything that you try, then this is the video for you. Because I've gotten to a point in my life where I started to notice a pattern, how there are some people that are just good at everything that they do. You might have one of these friends in your friend group that just, whenever you try something new, he's just good at everything he does. And you might also have that one friend who's completely bad at this one thing that you guys like to do. And that whenever you guys try a new thing, that friend also turns out to be the worst at all the other things that you try. There's a pattern, and don't get discouraged, because I believe that this pattern isn't because of talent or whatever, but it is largely because of mindset, and I'll explain that in a second. But there is a pattern that makes some people good at most things that they do, and some people bad at most things that they do. I remember very well a story from when I was younger. I was about 15 years old, and I would spend most of my free time skateboarding with my friends. And this one day, a new kid showed up at the skate park who wasn't that good, because he was new to skateboarding. He had skateboarded before in his own neighborhood, or maybe like another skate park, but he was new to our skate park and he wasn't that good yet. And he was super insecure about it. Now, we didn't initially care, because, well, when you're new, then you're new, and everyone needs to start somewhere. And, you know, there are a lot of people who are new to skateboarding who come to the skate park all the time, so we didn't care. But this guy was super insecure about it, and he would constantly make comments and jokes about himself, saying that he sucked at skateboarding, that he was not as good as us, etc. But eventually, he got to this point where he said, well, I might not be as good at skateboarding as you guys are, but I'm good at other things, yes. I have other talents. So we turned towards him and we asked, okay, so, what are these other things that you like to do that you're good at? And he smiled and he said, gaming. I might not be good at this skateboarding real life stuff, but I'm a nerd and I am good at gaming. Those are my talents. So some of us smiled because some of us, me and my skateboarding friends, would also like to play video games. And we asked him, okay, so what are the games that you like to play? And he said Counter-Strike, which was a game that was pretty competitive back then. I mean, I guess it still exists, but back then it was like in the early phases, and it's a very competitive skill-based shooter game that we would also like to play. Now, we weren't pros or anything, we were 15-year-old kids, but for a game that was in like its beginning phases, and for us being 15-year-old kids, we were, pretty decent for 15-year-old kids, I guess. We weren't bad at it. So, we got excited and we said, oh, Counter-Strike. We also like to play Counter-Strike. Maybe we should meet up sometimes online and we should play a game together so you can show us how good you are. So he said, yeah, sure, we'll meet up sometimes. So we exchanged MSN, which was like the social media back then. We met up for a game of Counter-Strike online. And it turned out that he was not that good at all, and we owned the absolute shit out of him. He was bad. He wasn't just not good, but he was just bad at it, and we completely destroyed him. Now, I thought that it was very funny back then when I was 15 years old, because I was a teenage kid, and that's what you do as a teenage kid. And also this guy actually bragged about his own skills, and then it turned out that he wasn't that good at all, so it was kind of funny. I still think that it's kind of funny right now, if I'm being completely honest. But at the same time, I cannot help but really feel for this guy on a very, very deep level. Because I've also had phases in my life where I kind of felt like I sucked at most things that I tried. Phases where I wasn't doing that well and I was stuck in a negative mindset. And I felt like I wasn't good at the things I tried and that the people didn't like me. And so I can understand how this guy must have felt. He came to a new skate park and then he wasn't good at skateboarding. And in his mind, he probably thought that we were making fun of him, which we weren't initially, but he kept making so many comments and jokes about himself that, I don't know, maybe we, being 15-year-old kids, kind of went along with it eventually. So in his mind, he thought that we were the bullies and that, he sucked at skateboarding and that we didn't like him. And then he thought, well, at least I'm a nerd and at least I'm good at playing video games. But then it turns out that these bullying kids also beat him at the video game and that he was good at nothing. He must have felt like he was good at nothing and that no one likes him. And it was probably from this point on in my life that I started to notice this pattern, where a lot of the times when someone isn't good at one thing, they are not good at other things either. Even if that one thing is an activity like skateboarding or a sport, and that other thing is something more nerdy like playing a video game, which you wouldn't expect, right? I mean, I would have always assumed that it's the athletic jock type of guys that are good at playing the sports, and then the nerds who are not good at playing the sports, well, at least the nerds are good at playing the video games, right? But this story showed me otherwise. And so I started to notice this pattern where even among my own friend group, the people that were the worst at skateboarding were also the guys that were the worst at playing the video games. And I know that this can sound like a very demotivating thing, because now you might think, well, so it all boils down to talent, and I'm not talented, I'm bad at most things that I do, so basically I'm screwed for life now, right? I'm always going to suck at everything that I do. But I don't think that that is true at all. Because I have personally seen some people, including myself to a certain extent, because I'm not trying to claim that I've always been good at everything that I've done. I've had my phases where I felt like I was bad at most things that I tried. I've personally seen people go from someone that is bad at most things that he or she does to becoming someone that is good at most things that he tries. And I think, in fact, I'm pretty sure that it all boils down to mindset. I think that you can make the choice between having a loser mindset and having a winner mindset. And let me try to explain this to you by giving you an example of a video game. Fortnite, to be specific. Now, I've actually not really even played Fortnite myself. I've played it for like 2 games to just check out the game. But I hope that some of you guys have played the game, and I think this is a good game to give as an example. And if you don't know how the game works, the idea is simple. It's a battle royale game, so everyone drops down in a map and then they fight to the death until there's one player standing, and that player is the winner. Now, the reason I'm using Fortnite as an example is this. When you start the game in Fortnite, you drop down into the map and you can choose where you drop into the map. There are different locations that you can choose to land and start your game. Now, generally speaking, it's a generalization, but on average, skilled players or confident players, skilled and confident players, choose to drop at the busier locations. So there's like one city in like the middle of the map where all the loot is and all the action is, and so a lot of players go there to just get action. Most of the skilled players choose to go there because, most of the action and most of the loot is in that city in the middle. I believe it was called Twin Towers or something, not sure. And the not so skilled players, on average, choose to go to the somewhat calmer, safer locations where there isn't a lot of action. Because if there isn't a lot of action, there are not a lot of other players to potentially kill you, you don't get killed as fast and you survive for a longer time, and that's like the safer option, right? Now, the not so skilled players might think that they're making a good decision by avoiding the action. But in truth, avoiding the action is exactly why these players are not so skilled. Because if you take 2 players, you have player A and player B. And player A and player B are both equally skilled, but player A has a confident winner mindset, so player A chooses to drop in Twin Towers, the busy city, but player B has an unconfident, insecure loser mindset, and so player B chooses to drop in the safe location. What is going to happen is that player A is going to get a lot more experience actually fighting other players, because he drops right into the combat, right? And even though player A might die after 5 minutes, player A does die after 5 minutes of actually fighting other players and learning how to fight other players in the game and thus becoming better at the game. Whereas player A spends 10 minutes, 20 minutes walking around not fighting other players. And so the fact that player A might die after 5 minutes doesn't actually matter, because player A joins a new game, drops right back into the action, and has another 5 minutes of experience actually fighting other players. And so he might die 4 times in the span of 20 minutes, but he joins 4 new games in those 20 minutes, and he spends 20 minutes actually playing the game, having action. Whereas player A spends 20 minutes running around, maybe encountering 1 or 2 other players. And so by the time that both of these players have played, let's say, 50 games, player A is going to have 10 times, 100 times, literally up to 100 times more combat experience of actually shooting and building and fighting within the game. Literally 10 to 100 times more experience, even though they have played the game for about the same amount of time. And so player B is going to look at himself, stuck in his loser mindset, and he's going to tell himself, damn, I've been playing this game just as much as my friends. We've both been playing this game for 2 weeks, but my friends are so much better than I am. Why is it that I am always bad at the things that I try? And because he tells himself that he is always bad at the things that he tries, he gets that insecure mindset where he is afraid of the action and he keeps avoiding the action and he keeps becoming worse than his friends. And whenever he tries a new thing, maybe another video game or maybe something else, he jumps into that new activity with the exact same mindset, not going for it, not jumping into the action, and he also ends up being worse again. And so I think that if you feel like you are someone that is bad at everything that you try, that you are worse than other people at most things that you do, that you are probably stuck in this negative loser mindset where you don't really have a lot of confidence and you are afraid to jump into the action. And of course, there are other factors as well, like actually learning theory and reflecting on yourself and all of that stuff, which obviously matters a lot as well. But I think that if you are one of these people that feels like you're bad at everything that you do and you want to become better at everything that you do, that this mindset is going to be the number one factor that is going to make this change. You need to stop thinking so negatively of yourself. You need to stop being afraid. You need to stop avoiding the action. And you need to learn to just jump in. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just jump right into the action. That is the number one factor that separates the people that are good from the people that are bad.